Hello, how y'all doing out there? We're joined today, Mr. and Mrs. Smith here are joining us, our distinguished guests. They are here in person, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Please say hi to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They're good friends of mine. I've known them for probably about, before they even got married. We'll talk about that maybe later, a little bit about their life history. And so anyhow, so they're here in person, and do you know that there are two of you? There are two of you. One you is, man, woman, and one you appear as, like my guests here. Seems crazy, but it's true. I'm not making this up. This video will lay out some basics for understanding what you're involved in and what can be done to get back to there was only one of you. Because you see this one here, like my distinguished guests, it's fiction. It's fiction. It's pure fiction. But that's what everyone's playing. That's what these are persons. Everyone out there that's acting or playing the part of a person, okay, who's claiming to be a Canadian, who's claiming rights under any legislation, who's claiming constitutional rights, charter rights, who appears in court, who speaks in court, charged at the side of the road, go into a store, sign up, apply for a driver's license, a bank account, a social insurance number, passport. All of the things everyone's doing every day. To do that, you have to be a person. You must appear in person, like my distinguished guests. For example, they've been married 20 years. 20 years, a long time. You don't get that a lot these days, but yeah, they're pretty cool. They don't do much. They don't say much. They're pretty quiet, actually. And but 20 years, and it was actually some recent events that got them. That's why they're here actually today. Is they've had some recent experiences that they couldn't fathom what was going on. They're like, they thought, well, I thought if it's my car, I own my car, but there was no license plate on it, so the police took it. I'm thinking, but it's my car. How could they take my car? It's my car. And then, they didn't pay property taxes. I'm just finding this stuff out. They're telling me, but see, the thing is, they don't understand why these things are happening. But anyhow, they lost the house because they didn't pay property taxes. I think the house was valued at what? $1.3 million. And over a $15,000 property tax bill, they lost it. It was taken. And so they're scratching their heads, going, it's mine. How could they do this? How could they take what belongs to me? How could they tell me what to do? How can they tell me what not to do? It's just, they're just going through the minds here. And I bumped into them, and then we had these conversations. And so I said, well, you guys come on over. Well, I do some stuff for YouTube, and we'd have a little show, and maybe I can help you understand how it came to be that you don't own any property. Oh, yeah, you're treated as the owner. They say you're the owner. You act as if you're the owner. Excuse me. They've had their COVID shots. Persons, by the way, should have their COVID shots. Absolutely, persons should have COVID shots. I agree with that, 100%. Onward. So anyhow, I'm speaking here in generalities, meaning there are blanks to be filled in. I'd like to expand on all the details here, but I shan't for obvious reasons. It would be an hours-long video or a series of videos and way too much information for the public. You want your children back? You want to own your property? You want the nonsense to stop? You want force this and that to stop? Well, listen up. Right now you're this. Everyone is this. And you keep dealing with this. Persons. And persons are fiction. They don't exist. Now this video should be viewed in conjunction with these videos. Part 8. We are so free we chose bondage. The claim to be. How did it come to be? Thou made unto thee a graven image. Whoever made it owns it, rules over it. Who made you? I don't know, everybody likes to point out, I guess Jesus said the kingdom of God's within, right? So, yeah, my maker's in here. If my maker wasn't in here, I wouldn't be here. I couldn't. Another story. And the other one is persons are fictional beings. So those videos, it'd be good to watch those in conjunction with this one here. And I think people think the inheritance from God means we get free stuff. whatever we want. We do not get free property. We would own our property, the fruits of our productivity, our efforts. We reap what we sow, so people have to work or they reap nothing. God's provided everything here for us. Doesn't mean you don't have to work for it, or that just somehow a house materializes out of the forest you moved on to. It requires work. Even God had to work. He worked 6 days. So people are kind of whatever. So yeah, even God worked. We can claim for, however, we can recoup the value fruits of our securities that have been presumed abandoned. That comes back to you. In fact, any property that's been taken. But the word own, to own means the right to possess, to control, to use, to manage, and dispose of to the exclusion of all others. So who's the owner here now? Which, in your real world, the world you're experiencing now, are you like the owner like my guests, or are you the owner like this? This owner owns property, sort of more like trustee, subject to the laws of the will of the government, if you will. That's their God. My God, however, I own property subject to his law. So no, there's no such thing here as free stuff and we can have whatever we want. Have to work. So imagination. The ability to form mental images of things and events. Mental images of things and events. Mental images. We are in bondage to these mental images. True story. If you haven't already got it by now, you're all walking around living basically like this. You don't even know it. Remember in the mask, we talked about the mask? Well, this is the mask. You don't see it, but it's there, legally speaking. Person or man. That's it. That's your choice. So we're in bondage to these mental things that do not exist except in the mind. This is why God says you flee when no man pursueth. Yeah, we flee when no man pursueth. Oh, this is what's chasing you. But, just saying. Every man and woman around the world who claims to be a citizen of a country, who votes, applies for this, or makes application or claim for that, a Canadian, a U.S. citizen, an American, a German, Australian, so on and so forth. This is what you're claiming to be, to represent, act for, think for, and speak for a fictional, non-existent being. There it is. You see it? That's right, non-existent beings, which leaves you, man and woman, at the end of the day, all deception aside, to pay the bills and go to jail over property you don't even own and other matters. They need man to be a person so they can pass off liability. They need you to believe you're that so they can stick the liability to you. That's all it is. So they can control you and your property. Are you hearing me? Are you getting this? Persons are fictions, and fictions do not exist. Therefore, persons do not exist. It's all an act. It's all here. I watched a movie with Morgan Freeman in it. It was really cool, and he was an author. And he moved to this nice little town, and his neighbor there was a woman and her daughter. She was single and whatever, and so the daughter, young girl, started visiting. Morgan Freeman, he's in a wheelchair, blah blah. And so he starts teaching her about writing, so on and so forth. Then she starts asking questions, and basically by the time he gets to the end of the movie, she's asking the big question. But you don't tell people what happened at the end. You kind of leave it off, like the movie Psycho. You saw the thing. The scene in the shower there, you never actually saw anybody getting stabbed, but you saw the shower, you heard the shower going, you saw the shower curtain, and it looks like you saw something like this. And some splatter. So he, and, Morgan Freeman, he says, well, we leave that to the imagination. People fill in the blanks. They make the ending what they want it to be, what they think it is, what they believe it is, what they believe it should be. Reading the whole book has kind of geared their mind towards some sort of mental conclusion. It's all imagination, though. So, did anybody really get stabbed in that shower? Nobody saw anything, really, right? We saw stuff, but we didn't see anybody actually physically get stabbed. So it's imagination. Pretty powerful thing. Persons are fictions, and fictions do not exist. Welcome to the legal system and the fiction of law. The distinction is simple. Fact or fiction, real or imaginary, man or person, where is your head at? So, this is what you are when you appear in person. That's it. When you represent a person, when you claim to be a Canadian, when you claim constitutional and other rights, your every activity, but a few each day, are done in person. Walks like a person, talks like a person, does what persons must do, and refrains from doing things that persons are prohibited from doing, or otherwise represents a person, she will be deemed a person. It is not possible to represent yourself and be yourself. This is me. If I represent, that's me. Remember that word, deemed. You've been deemed something, so you want to be deemed again, right? Redeem. It is the actors, the persons, and children are persons under the age of 18 years. These fictional beings, female persons, male persons, that the governments and the courts of the world have jurisdiction over. These. Like my guests. More about my guests later. Oh, the power of the imagination. We believe nothing is something. How crazy is that? Seriously. Seriously. Read the rules, the laws, the regulations, the codes of the country. Every one of them applies to persons like my guests here. Is that what you is? Is that who's watching this video and hearing this and maybe making some notes and thinking? Or are you pretending to be that? Or do you think you're that? Pretty smart, eh? Yep. Know this. God made man and woman. That's it. Forget the modifiers. There's no such thing as a Canadian man. Or Canadian beef or Canadian lumber or Canadian anything. Canadian's a person. It's a fiction. To apply to or petition government or a court for anything in any name, you must apply and appear in person. Claim rights under government, whatever, Bill of Rights, Charter of Rights, Constitution, you must do so as a person. You are doomed from the get-go if you do that. Speaking of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it has here in the Charter, Canada is founded on the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Well, the part about God there, that's a lie. That is an absolute lie. It's an intentional deception. Now think about this. You got a brain. Think about it now. Canada is a person, a fiction, made up of persons, citizens. So it cannot possibly recognize God, the God that made man and that made woman. It's ridiculous. Wake up, people. Wake up. So, what do we do with this? You want to be redeemed. It comes down to a few concepts regarding jurisdiction. The judge, this is the first one. The father of the country did not make you. He does not own you. He does not rule over you. Man, woman. Qualify that, man, woman. He is not your father or the father of your children. Whoever made it owns it, rules over it. Lights coming on. You're not a person, and they cannot prove you is. Remember, all laws, rules, regulations, it's all persons. All of it. All of it. The judge, now this is key. This part here is key. Very key. Understand that where the real authority lies in the whole system structure, legal system, government system, financial system. At the end of the day, where does all the authority lie? The judge, the father. The father. It's the father. Remember, all this is based on the father-son relationship. It's the father of the house. When the father lays down the rules, their children must obey, or there's a consequence. There's a penalty, or if there's no penalty, then the law is of no effect. Hence the penalty. If there's no penalty, the law is of no effect. So you see, this is why ignorance of the law, in man's law anyhow, is an excuse, not in God's. You claim all the ignorance you want as you're falling off the top of a building, not aware of the law of gravity. It's still going to have its effect. And yeah, so you're not a person. You're not a person, and they can't prove you is. The judge, like all fathers, he is the full and final authority. Pardon me. The judge, like all fathers, he is the full and final authority. All the children of the country, the persons, the sons of Canada, the sons of Australia, the daughters. And you got the founding fathers. Well, that's not this father, that's human fathers. See, it's there in front of our face. Fathers, founding fathers, sons, all sons command. All father-son relationship. The judge, like all fathers, he is the full and final authority. All the children of the country, the persons, which includes government employees, lawyers, officers of the court, must accept what the father says. In other words, the rule of daddy is binding on all persons. Sure, the judge got to follow this contract or the statute, whatever. It's not the point here, not at all. Because the question is here, does any of this apply to you, right? That's what this is about. Jurisdiction. Are you that? If you can prove you're not that, well, guess what? In other words, the rule of daddy is binding on all persons. What if daddy says you is not a person, or this court does not have a jurisdiction over this man? You know, something to that effect as an outcome. You'd be free. You'd own yourself, your children, your property. Think about it. Daddy said, you're not a person, or this court doesn't have jurisdiction over this man, something to that effect. Now you own your property. Now you're not that. You see, now you're not that, and they know it. Daddy said so. Daddy agreed, whatever. That's the point. It's the father. And the only way, this is interesting in the Bible, that Jesus said the only way to I am the truth, the light, and the way to the Father. So the way to the Father is by and through the Son. Jesus being the Son, right? The way to the Father is by and through the Son. Well, you want to get to the Father in the court? It's by and through the Son. The fictional Son, of course. Thank you so much, Marcus. It's Hermit King. All credit goes there, and wherever he got it from. So let me cut to the chase here. This will be a stretch for some people to grasp. But at the end of the day, the truth be known, the courts have fictional jurisdiction, which is jurisdiction over nothing. Nothing. Okay. Let me requalify that. Okay. They have jurisdiction over persons. And persons are fictional beings, which man can play the part of, right? He can represent. He can appear as, think for, speak for, act for, go to jail for, get electrocuted for, pay the bills for. Follow me? So where did I leave off here? Oh, yeah. They have jurisdiction over persons, and persons are fictional beings. A high court judge wrote on the subject of persons. Just not making this up. Fictional beings do not exist. Therefore, persons do not exist. It's all in the mind. So we're back to nothing. We're back to nothing. Courts have jurisdiction over nothing. It's all make-believe. It's all an act. The difference between us acting as well everyone is and the Hollywood actors, they know they're acting. They know it's all make-believe. They know that it's a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this, and then it's the editor puts it all together at the end of the day, and we see the end result, which looks like a real-life experience. But it's made up of a multitude of segments, bits and pieces, all assembled. So they see all of that. They know they're... So for them, I often wonder when those people that are into making the movie business, they look at movies differently because they know how it's made. It's all make-believe fiction. It's not... They're not enthralled like we are. Not drawn in like we are. So yeah, persons do not exist. We're back to nothing. This is important. God made man and woman, and man and women make children. See, God didn't make the children. Man and women make the children. Now on it goes. Self-perpetuating, self-sustaining. So there is God, and there is man, and there is woman, and that's it. People say God, man, government. No, forget the government. It's fiction. It's all fiction. It's all here. Whatever power it has is the power from your belief. People are fleeing from this. This is what false evidence appearing real. You getting me here? Fearing this. It's all here. My God. Talk about renewing the mind. Oh boy. Yeah, so there's God and man and woman, and that's it. That is reality. All other beings, humans, natural persons, corporations, governments, persons are fictional, imagined. Just like a movie set. It's all an act. It's just an act. Starting to get an idea of the power of your thoughts, the power of your mind, what you think, what you believe. I hope so. I hope so. Because on one hand, it's exceedingly funny. I mean, this is sort of funny. I know these are fictional beings. I know I'm saying they don't exist. And you're looking there saying, well, but he's got these little dummy things there, straw man, whatever you call it, whatever you want. Persons. That's what the code says. Code doesn't say straw man, it says persons. That's not about man, it says persons. Persons applies to this, which obviously requires a man or a woman to step into these shoes and get involved in these things and everybody's done it, thinking this is you, but we've all been deceived, you see. So part of the wisdom here is, part of the strategy is learning to play the game no longer deceived. This is probably where poker players and poker players and in particular would maybe find this part easier. This will be a difficult part for people, I think. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, it's understanding their deception. Again, this is all coming from markets, understanding their deception and using their deception against them, not arguing, not telling them that they're doing anything wrong, and nothing like that. Just throwing their deception, using the knowledge of their deception, knowing that they think like us, and using the knowledge of the deception and turning it back on them. But anyhow, there is a particular way of like I say, I talked about the father there. It is the father of the country who has the final say. When daddy has spoken, your children must obey, or there is a consequence for the violators. It's a penalty, or the laws of no force in effect. Think about it. It's like telling your children, well, if you don't do this, you're going to go to bed without pudding, and then you give them the pudding, even though they don't do what you said to do. So what the law is, there's no force in effect. Eventually, the children figure that out, right? But the legal system doesn't work that way. There's none of this. So you can have your pudding anyhow. Oh, we'll forget that, and you can have your pudding anyhow. No. There's always a consequence in the code, whatever, and they will enforce or uphold that consequence, the penalty. So anyhow, I hope this video helps you a little bit there, and because I know in different things going on around the happening out there these days, and It's all pertaining to persons. And if you want to know what I know, what I see, sense going on out there in the world right now is a separating of the wheat and the chaff. A separating of these types from this type who knows that doesn't exist. Whereas the ones that are living this, having no clue that they're deceived, or what's going on. Who are basically, they're governed by the TV. That's what I see going on. And it's like a skill testing question. Do you know who you are? And unfortunately, the onus is on us. That's the way it is. To take care of the redeem part. They're not going to do it for you. You got to get involved here. You got to do something. And like I said, I've spoken generalities, but there's a lot of really good information here, and we have the evidence from that high court judge who's highly involved in the legal system, written many things, and is actually a teacher, works at a university or something or other. Quite a list of credentials anyhow. So anyhow, on that note, we'll stop here. I think it's long enough, however long this is. God bless you, love you. Light of God never fails. Not possible. Geez, sorry about that. I'm embarrassed. I was signed off there, and I totally forgot about my guests. They reminded me that I was going to, talk a little bit about them. So, yeah, they got married 20 years ago. They applied to the province of Ontario for a license to get married, and of course, to do that, they had to be in person. So it was, a marriage is an amalgamation of two persons. Here you go. Here's the union, the marriage. So they went to the state for a license for that. And they've since applied for, dry mouth. Sure, that's some water at hand. Social insurance numbers and driver's license. Again, had to apply in person, appeared in person. They've got a couple traffic fines. They went to court to fight those. They weren't successful, and again, had to appear in person. Go to work, with that social insurance number, so on and so forth, and they do what they do, and they're there in person. But they're really not, but they are on paper, but it's actually the man, woman doing the work, right? Like I say, it's, maybe I can demonstrate like this. Remember I said, there's two of us. There are two of us. There's me, and there's the person. Me, one, and the person, two. But guess what? It's impossible for me to be two things. So I can only be one or the other, right? So there's no mixing of oil and water here. So this is why I say the point is once Daddy agrees that you're not that, however it comes about, it's over. Daddy has spoken. So that's what I'm talking about. We talk about the mask, and that's what comes out of your mouth is very, very important. So yeah, anyhow, so they've had three lovely female persons. I think they're 3, 5, and 7 years of age, and again, children are persons under the age of 18, and there's female persons and male persons. So they've had three lovely female persons, and of course the births are registered. They all got a birth certificate, and then they register the persons for the girls to go to school. So they're now appearing in person in school, and round and round it goes. And they'll grow up and they'll do the same thing as their mom and dad, like we all do, and round and round it goes. Where the heck it's going to stop? Probably, I don't know. Trash can. I don't think we're due for another flood, although it's probably getting near time for that sort of event. We don't get our act together. It can't go on forever, but that's another story in itself, and not the subject of this meeting here and this video. Yeah. So, and they've been contributing to a pension, and it's been accumulating. They're happy about that. They've invested in RSPs, and all of this is. I can't do that. I don't need to do that, but they do. They do that because, you see, they don't own any property. Now they understand that. They didn't understand that before, but now they understand that. And especially after having listened to our little spiel here when we were doing this video here today. And they're very thankful now that they understand that they have to stop being this. They have to get rid of the mask. They have to get back to this and this only. But it's just not. It's not as simple as, some people might think. I'll just walk into court and tell me God made man and I'm a man. God doesn't compute in their court. Doesn't compute. Forget it. Yeah, the Bible's very valuable in helping you get to a certain understanding, and then it's up to you to carry it out. So that's all that has to happen here. Is as long as they're continuing to be persons, appearing as persons, acting for the person, speaking for the person, thinking for the person, believing themselves. And that's the problem here. They believe themselves to be the person. Because they've been deceived like all of us. So they believe themselves to be that person, or they're not even aware of the person or what they're actually doing, but everybody's doing it, the same thing, and it's all persons. It's this. Welcome to Alice in Wonderland. Quite literally. Turn on the TV and watch the program. You don't need to do that. Just open your eyes and see what's going on in the planet. Everyone's doing it without a clue what's going on. Everyone's been deceived, and Satan is the deceiver. It was way back when, right? Should have kept an eye on that guy. Keep our enemies a little closer, maybe. So, yeah, and so they're very happy to have received this information. Now they understand why it is, and they understand now what they have to do, and that there's, they got to get, basically, they got to have a conversation with Daddy. But they know that they can't just walk in there and talk to Daddy. It doesn't work that way, and they know that they can't make application to go see Daddy because they'd have to do that in person, which would set things off in the wrong foot right off the bat, knowingly. So they know there's a strategy involved, and we've talked about that strategy. So they're gonna take care of that. They're gonna sit back and think about things for a bit, and then which strategy they're gonna choose, and go with it, and have that conversation with Daddy. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Marv and Sally Smith. Been nice having you on the show. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. God bless you. Say goodbye. Thanks. Good night, all. One more thing I should add here. Oh, my guests have decided to join the audience of persons back there, and so they're still here. That's okay. That's fine. They're welcome. They're welcome. They got a lifetime pass. They never die. I don't know how it works. They never die. They don't know anything, but they never die. Maybe they're just expending a lot of energy. I don't know. What did I come here for? Oh, yeah. People say we have that conversation on about that here, actually. And people say, well, if I own it, I have the liability. Yeah, of course. And they have a problem with that, but I'm going, well, just a second here. You have the liability now, and you don't own any property. So what the heck are you talking? What are you saying here? Think it through, people. Think it through. You have the liability now, and you don't own anything. So wouldn't it be better if you're going to have the liability, to own what you have, to own the property? I think so. And it's been talked about insurance. So insurance is a scam, and it's passing off the responsibility/liability, and I agree with that. And again, it's only persons can do that. So automotive insurance, drivers, they have to produce proof of contract of insurance, absolutely, in person, once again. And where's he going with that? Yeah, so now here's the thing. If everybody owned their property, everyone owned their property, and, there's no persons anymore, so now there's no insurance. Ooh, no insurance. How do you think the people will be driving on the highways? Recklessly or very, very attentively? Knowing that, hey, if they cause any damage, well, yeah, I'm liable. I'm responsible. I'm actually responsible for my creation. I caused this. I'm responsible. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How about maybe obey the speed limit? None of this, driving like this, 5 feet apart at 110 miles an hour, whatever. You know what I'm saying here, I think. So people would probably be driving and operating, doing a lot more things differently, knowing that they're fully responsible, that there's no passing off liability to some fictional being for a fictional charge. That's to do with fictions. It's just, we've all been deceived. So little teeny subtle things like that, you may want before you people start, because I know people are going to see this video and they're going to mock it some way or shape or form. I really don't give a crap. And they can think whatever they want, if they can say what they want to say. Just too lazy to get off their butt, I would say, and do anything. You want somebody else's property for nothing, but nobody's asking them to give up their property for nothing, or I'm not. So, yeah. Done.